Fight fans, fight fans, fight fans. This is Kirk Cavill with Counterpunch Boxing News. Apologies for my last video. It had no sound. I was using the Beats by Dre for some weird reason. The sound just stopped. But the video was intended for Anthony Joshua to discuss his weaknesses. You know, I've been accused of being a Deontay Wilder basher or Canelo Alvarez basher, and I'm really not. I just call things how I see it. I call it right up the middle, or I try to be as unbiased as possible. You know, just trying to give my just raw opinion about stuff, right? So, one of Dennis Bardwee, right, one of my subscribers, to this channel, he made a good comment. He made a good point, like, hey, you always talk about, Deontay's Wilder, his style and things like that. What are the weaknesses of Anthony Joshua? You never talk about Anthony Joshua or his weaknesses, So, you know what? And he had a good point. So this video is dedicated to the weaknesses of Anthony Joshua, okay? Well, let's start off with Anthony Joshua. First of all, he is accused of being robotic, right? And that comes from weightlifting, heavy weightlifting, extreme weightlifting. If you notice Anthony Joshua, from the time he was in the Olympics to the time he got out, he bulked up a lot. He did a lot of bulking. You know what I mean? And, people threw around the steroid, allegations and rumors and stuff like that. But he did a lot of bulking nonetheless. And then when you tend to lift weights like that, you ask any bodybuilder, your tendons and, everything becomes more tight, and it's less flexible. Okay, so, with those tight tendons, you lose your flexibility from throwing punches, and then your punches end up looking, robotic. Okay, so that's where he gets that from, because he's so bulky. You ever heard the joke of the guy so buff he can't even grab his own stuff to take a piss? You know what I mean? So that's where they get that from, because you're so tight because you spend a lot of time, and which Anthony Joshua did, lifting heavy weights. And a lot of that, I guess he was trying to implement for power, which he has power. He just doesn't have that knockout power. And I don't think you need power. I think power is God-given. I don't think that, weights would help you with power. Certain aspects, I guess, in forms of certain punches, maybe the straight right might increase power just a bit, but you lose that same, you lose at the same time because he loses flexibility. Had it been more, wiry or flexible like Klitschko. If you look at Klitschko, if you look at their both builds, he has an athletic build, but you can tell that he does lift weights, but it's not a primary form of weight or exercise, in his routine. He just implements it, right? He doesn't do like Anthony Josh, just bulks up. You can tell he was a lot more wiry. And since he did bulk up, I think that added to him being slower. Okay, because, he's not the fastest fighter. He's not the fastest heavyweight. Wilder's faster than him. Parker's faster than him. But, he's not the slowest, okay? But I think that is because of weights. If you lift weights like that, you lose your speed a lot of times, because, again, the flexibility also affects your speed, and your ability to throw certain punches. That's why, the robotic effect will come into play. So he's not the fastest fighter, and then that's a weakness, especially when someone's quicker like Wilder. That would be a weakness of his. He's not the fastest. And the number one thing, well, this is probably the number two or one. It might be tied, but I feel a major important flaw and weakness of Anthony Joshua is his stamina. Okay? Again, that could go back to the root of him lifting weights, because it takes a lot of energy to lift heavy stuff like that and doing those reps. That takes a lot of energy. The same type of energy you probably would need if you're doing more calisthenics. That'd probably be more beneficial, especially when you're going, you're possibly going 12 rounds, right? Because If you can recall in the Klitschko fight in the fifth round, he put Klitschko down. And it wasn't by like a one shot that hurt Klitschko. Klitschko did get hurt and hit, but it was an accumulation there after that, So he put those combos together and pummeled Klitschko to the ground. But Klitschko being conditioned, the guy's always in shape, as he was. People say what they want to say about him being on the couch for 2 years or whatever. He's always in shape. He spars to this day, and he's retired once a week. Okay, so that gives you something about Klitschko is not going to come in out of shape. You'll never see Klitschko with his belly out unless something happens. He gets sick or get injured or something. And even then, if he heals, he'll be back in the ring. So Klitschko got up, and by the sixth round, he had Joshua down. Right now, the round 7, round 8, you can tell Joshua was punched out. I'm thinking to this myself, well, this kid's about to get knocked out. That's what I was thinking when I saw it, and I was actually going for Klitschko because I didn't think that Joshua had the experience to do what he needed to do. Okay, so but he showed that he did. He showed he had heart, like Wilder showed that he had heart. But this is, his weakness was he did not have the stamina. He had punched himself out, and that was only the fifth round. So you know what I'm saying? It took him a while to recoup, to get his bearings back. And I think he got it back on the end of the 8th or the 9th round. But no, that stamina is a must. Fatigue will make cowards of men. That's a saying, okay? So it showed. If you're tired, what can you really do when you're tired and you have no energy? So he needs to work on his stamina. And if you notice, he has been dropping weight and cutting down a lot. He looked a lot slimmer than he looked in the recent years, in his past fights. So his stamina, okay, is a big issue. A question mark will be raised. Yes, he went 12 rounds with Parker. I know that. But the Parker fight wasn't a type of fight that he had with Klitschko. You know what I mean? It wasn't the same type of fight Wilder had with Ortiz. It wasn't an action-packed fight, so he didn't have to do a lot of physicalities and it didn't take a lot of energy to exert itself like he did with Klitschko. So, the question is, we don't know how he would do in an action-packed fight. You know what I mean? Did the weight loss help? And then if he needed, then I can understand him needing 8 weeks with Wilder if that fight happens, because that would be one of the stipulations he wanted. He wanted 8 weeks. Sadly to say, I don't think that in 8 weeks that'll fix that problem. I just don't think so. I mean, I think, that's one of those things that you have to work on as time goes on. Especially if he hasn't changed anything, from his strength and conditioning coach, any of those factors. If those factors haven't changed and he still bulks up, I don't see him doing well against someone wiry and inflexible like Wilder. So that's a weakness on his behalf. And the last thing I have to that is a weakness, it's chin. And when I mean chin, I don't mean the actual chin, because people can take punches to their chin. Okay, a lot of times if you got severely knocked out, right, these nerve endings in your jaw, they open up. So when you get knocked out, it's easier to get knocked out a second time because those nerves are exposed at that point. Okay, it's their pressure points. But I was talking more, he took a punch from the head. He took one out right on the temple. Well, on this side of the temple from Klitschko. And that shot took him down. Okay, now he got back up, but that's questionable. You know what I mean? So someone with some decent power, some heart, because Klitschko can hit. But guess who else can hit? His rival, right? Wilder can hit. So, that always comes in question. White had him hurt. So you can't ignore that. White had him hurt. He just didn't have the follow-up. He didn't follow through with the attack to actually see if he can put down Joshua. So yeah, he's been rocked. He's been hurt. He's been down. Okay. So those are factors and weaknesses that show like, yeah, no fighter's perfect. Like he said it himself. Well, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm learning. You know what I mean? And these are obvious weaknesses of Anthony Joshua. And if he goes in there with Deontay Wilder, and he gets hit with those punches, a lot of questions will be answered. You know what I mean? If it's an action-packed fight, again, a lot of questions will be answered. Those questions that we're bringing up, like, hey, can he take that punch? What'll happen if he does take that punch? Will he get back up from a Wilder's punch? You know what I mean? Will he be fast enough because of the speed? Will he look robotic? Will he be flexible enough? You know what I mean? Will he be able to do the things that he normally does? Right? So that's my take on the weaknesses of Anthony Joshua. Um, Other than that, I don't really see other weaknesses right now. You guys tell me what you think Anthony Joshua's weaknesses are. Of course, please subscribe, give me feedback, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.